Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the cleansers that I have tried on my own very sensitive and dry and mature skin. And so over the past 4 years I've spent an awfully lot of time looking at ingredient lists for different kinds of cleansers and trying to figure out which kinds of ingredients do work best for me. And I have tried out about 115 different cleansers on my skin, and I have found that some of them have worked really, really well for me and that others have been really problematic. And so what I wanted to do in this video was to talk about which cleansers I did better with, and also to talk about the ingredient list for all of the cleansers that I've tried so that you can figure out which ones might be the most appropriate for you. And so in this video, I'll be talking about cream cleansers as well as gel cleansers or foamy cleansers. And I also will be talking about makeup remover, cleansing balms or cleansing oils, and then also exfoliators, including chemical exfoliators and physical exfoliators. And so I am really happy that with all this experimentation, I have found quite a few products that I am really enthusiastic about. And so my hope is that by watching this video, it will give you some ideas of some products that might be worth it for you to try as well. So first, a little bit of information about me. I am 60 years old, and I do have a real zero tolerance policy in terms of being willing to use products that my skin does not like and is not doing well with. And one thing that I have found is that there are certain ingredients that always do irritate my sensitive skin, and I know that those ingredients are very irritating for many other people as well, so I just don't talk about products containing those ingredients on this channel. And one thing that I have found with cleansers is that in a lot of cases, even companies that are offering pretty good moisturizers in terms of the ingredients, that they tend to be a little bit more lax in terms of throwing whatever kind of ingredients in the cleansers. So for instance, a lot of cleansers do include synthetic fragrance, or a lot of cleansers do include things like harsh preservatives. And a lot of times the excuse for that tends to be that people are not leaving these cleansers on the skin for very long, so the skin won't have time to be irritated. And I have not found that to be the case for me at all. I do find that even in cleansers that ingredients like that do tend to be irritating for me, and so I do avoid those. And then in addition, there's a few other ingredients that I know some people may be able to tolerate, but that I have not personally done well with. So for instance, there are some kinds of surfactants that are, for instance, similar to like cocamidopropyl betaine, which is used a lot in shampoos, that my skin does not really like very much, and that even if I'm putting them on for a very brief period of time, my skin does tend to be a little bit irritated by that. And then in addition, even though I think that there are people out there that can tolerate some kinds of natural essential oils or natural processed fragrance like linalool, I have decided after a lot of trial and error that it's really just better for me to avoid those kinds of ingredients as well. And so I have moved towards mostly using more unscented types of products. But I have tried a lot of products with natural fragrances or natural essential oils in them, and so I will be talking about those products in this video. And so if you are interested in those kinds of products, then you should be able to get some good ideas of some cleaner versions that are listed here that I have already tried. So let's start first by talking about makeup removers. And so the first product is actually a classic one, and I think that this one does do a really good job in serving as both a makeup remover and a cleanser. And this is called the Clinique Take the Day Off Cleansing Balm. And this one actually took me a while to get around to trying because I was really skeptical about Clinique products, and I still don't know that there are any other Clinique products that I feel okay about. But this one I've actually had quite a bit of success with in terms of it being a really good product to both take off makeup and also not to require a second cleanser. And so this is a product that does have some ingredients in that might be concerning for some people. So for instance, it does have polyethylene in it, which is a plastic, and it has a PEG in it, which is a part of the reason why it rinses off the face so easily, because this particular PEG is designed to do that, but some people are concerned about contamination in PEGs. But in general, I do think that this has been really good on my face, and I don't think it's caused any irritation, and it has been really easy to use, and there's no fragrance in it. And so in general, this is one product that I have used quite a bit so far. But in terms of my favorite cleanser, I would say that this is for sure the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin Enhancing Treatment Cleanser. And so this is designed to be an all-in-one cleanser and makeup remover. And I do think that this does a really, really good job of taking off makeup. Now, it is priced pretty high, but supposedly you can take just a very small amount of this, supposedly like a blueberry-sized amount, and to use this to take off all of your makeup. And I think that for the most part, this has worked pretty well for me for this. And so if you do that, then a tube like this is supposed to last probably for about 6 months, and I think that that is probably the case in terms of my own experience with it. And so there have been times that I've used a lot more of this product, especially when I'm using a foundation like, for instance, the Fenty foundation, which tends to cling pretty strongly to my skin. In that case, I may use a larger amount of this product, and I may leave it on for a longer period of time. So what Lisa Eldridge is recommending is that you put this cleanser on and then you leave it on for 2 minutes while you are, for instance, brushing your teeth, and then that you take it off. But I have found that if I'm wearing a makeup that is particularly hard to get off, that if I leave it on my skin for a longer period of time and I use a larger amount of it, that does tend to work particularly well. But in any case, this does have a lot of really high quality ingredients in it. And so I think that that is part of why it is an expensive product. And one thing that she does claim is that it's also like a nice mask for the skin. And when I have left it on my skin for an extended period of time, I do feel like my skin really likes this product. And so some of the ingredients that it has in it include glycerin and squalane and meadowfoam seed oil and prickly pear oil, which is anti-aging, and passion fruit seed oil. And then it has a couple of different saponins in it, including the soap bark extract. And so I think that that is part of the reason that it works really well too. And all of these ingredients are fairly expensive. And this does include some oat kernel extract. And in some cases, I do find things with oat kernel extract or oat kernel oil to be a little irritating to my skin, and I think that that may be because sometimes oats have glyphosate contamination, but I've gone through a couple of tubes of this Lisa Eldridge product and I haven't had any issues with that. And so next what we have is a number of different oil cleansers, and so these are designed to be makeup removers and used as the first step in a 2-step cleansing process. And none of these have any kind of fragrance in them, and I think that all of these have been fine on my face, and they have all worked just fine, and they haven't irritated my skin, and I think that they have all done a pretty good job of taking off my makeup. But they are not necessarily cleansers that I am intending to keep using on a regular basis, because I do tend to like products that tend to only require one cleansing step. And so the first one is from a company called Dam Dam, and this one is made in Japan, and this is called the Silk Rice Cleansing Oil. And so this has a variety of different kinds of cleansers in it, including rice bran oil and sunflower oil. And then it also has a couple of other processed type oils in it. And I think that this one has been fine. And it is pretty expensive. It is $46 for a full-size container of this. And then I picked up, I think on Amazon, this particular cleanser, which seems to be made in Japan also. And this is called the Hada Labo Goguchun Oil Cleanser. And this has a variety of different ingredients in it. It's a pretty thin oil cleanser, and it comes with this pump. Now, I do think that this one has been fine, but I also feel like, especially since it is a very thin oil, that it tends to be a little bit messy. And so I have used it on my face, but recently I've been using it mostly to remove swatches of makeup from my hand or from my arm, and I think it does an actually really good job doing that. And then I have one from a company called Marie Veronique, which seems to use pretty much just really high quality oils, and it doesn't seem to have any preservatives really in any of their products. And so this particular cleanser, it's $45 for a full-size bottle of this. I just have this little sample bottle. And this one includes safflower oil, sunflower seed oil, apricot kernel oil, and a few other ingredients in it. And I think that it's probably a good idea to use up all of the Marie Veronique products right away, because they don't really have any preservatives in them, and they tend to use oils that can go rancid fairly easily. So I'm not feeling like this one has gone rancid yet, and there is still some left in the bottle, and I have had it for a while. But in general, my experience with the Marie Veronique products is that I try to use them up as quickly as possible. And Typology is one of my favorite skincare companies in general, and they make a product that is called the 7-ingredient cleansing oil, and this is actually pretty reasonably priced. And so this is over 3 ounces, and it is $26 at last I checked. And so this one has sweet almond oil, sunflower seed oil, and then several other kind of processed oils in it. And I think that this has been very nice, and it's actually a little bit thicker than some of these other oils, and so I feel like it wasn't quite as messy because it is a bit thicker. And in general, I think that this has been a pretty good product. Now, it does come in plastic, though. And then I also have a pretty expensive product from Victoria Beckham that was released last year, and this is made in Japan, and this has the same amount as that Typology cleanser, so it's a little bit more than 3 ounces, but this one is $70 for this bottle, and it actually is also in plastic. And I think that this cleanser has been fine. I haven't had any problems with it. Some of the ingredients in here include olive oil and an avocado oil derivative, and some rice bran oil. But in general, I think that this is an awfully expensive product, and that some of these other oil cleansers are not really inferior to it as far as I'm concerned. And Pharmacy makes a product that is a little bit similar to that Clinique Take the Day Off cleanser, but it is designed to be for people that want a really clean product or that have really sensitive skin. And so this one does not have any of those PEGs in it. And so my experience with that one is that it really does not act as a cleanser as well as a makeup remover, and that if I use that, it does leave kind of a residue on my face that makes me feel like I do have to use a cleanser to take that residue off. And so it is a little bit less streamlined for me than some of these other all-in-one makeup remover and cleanser products that I really like. But I do think that it's nice that it doesn't have any fragrance in it, and I do think it's felt good on my skin. It hasn't been irritating, and I think it does do a good job of removing makeup, so I think that that is something that is at least an option that I'm willing to use if that's what I have on hand. And then Honest Beauty is a company that I have liked an awfully lot of their skincare products. And in terms of their cleansers, the one that I have had the most success with is the Honest Magic Makeup Melting Cleanser. And so that is not one that I think does a really good job of taking off makeup that is hard to remove, like waterproof mascara, waterproof foundations, things like that. But I think in terms of taking off sort of everyday makeup, that this was kind of a creamy product, and that I haven't really felt it necessary to use a second cleanse afterwards. So I kind of did like this product, and I did go through at least one bottle of it. I do think that it might be the case that that is one of the products that Honest Beauty is discontinuing, though. So they are discontinuing most of their makeup products, actually, and also some of their skincare products, unfortunately. And then RMS has long offered just plain coconut oil as a cleanser. So they either offer just a jar of coconut oil that is supposed to be raw and organic and pretty pure, or they offer it in these little packages, and then each of these packages has a little a paper cloth in it that is saturated with this, and so you can use this fairly easily on the road. And I'm not usually a big fan of coconut oil in terms of skincare products, but in terms of it being a makeup remover that works pretty easily to take off the makeup, I think that this has been okay for me. And I think, especially if I were on the road or on a trip or something like this, having a cloth like this that you can just use and wipe off the makeup from your face could be a convenient thing to be doing. But in general, I do think that even some of these other oil mixtures probably are better for me than the coconut oil. From Drunk Elephant is just a cleansing balm that is a little similar to the Clinique cleansing balm. It doesn't have any PEGs in it, and it does have a lot of different oils in it, in addition to the kinds that the Clinique version has in it, including things like marula oil and cranberry seed oil and watermelon seed oil. And so, in my opinion, this is a product that does take off my makeup fairly well, but it also is fairly greasy on my skin, and so you definitely need a pretty good cleanse after that in order to get all of that greasy stuff off of the skin. And so I haven't really used that one too much because of that. I feel like it does take a little bit of extra effort to remove all of that oil from my skin. But in general, I think that at least it hasn't irritated my skin. My skin seems to be happy with this product in terms of it not being irritating. And then a product that I think is sort of even more greasy is the Inky List Oat Cleansing Balm. And this one is not very expensive, and so some people like it for that reason. And the first ingredient in that one is sweet almond oil, and then it has some oat kernel oil in it and a PEG in it. And in general, I just haven't really enjoyed using this particular product that much. It tends to feel on the kind of a greasy side to me, and that is not something that makes me really want to be using it that much. And then this product is from Korea, and it is called the Beauty of Joseon Radiance Cleansing Balm, and it is reasonably priced, so it is $17. So this is much less expensive than, for instance, the Clinique Take the Day Off product or similar products like that. But it is a fairly similar in terms of the formula, so I did want to give this a try. And my experience with that is that it did a fairly good job taking the makeup off of my skin, but that it did irritate my eyes when I tried to use it in my eye area. And so I don't really want to use a different product for my eye area than I use for the rest of my skin. And so I haven't been using that, but I probably will try to use this up to take off swatches off my hands, for instance, when I'm swatching things for the camera. And then I also tried out a really expensive unscented version from a company called Elemis. And so this one was the Elemis Pro Collagen Naked Cleansing Balm. And again, looks like it's sort of the same sort of formula based on what it looks like in the container and also what it looks like on the ingredient list. But again, I feel like this particular product was really irritating to my eyes when I used it in my eye area. And then Tatcha is a company that I had really hoped that I was going to really like when I first started to experiment with products, because it is made in Japan and it does seem to have a certain mystique associated with it. But there really have been very few products from Tatcha that I have been able to tolerate. And most of them do have fragrance in them. Now, interestingly, this particular product actually doesn't have any fragrance in it. So this is called the Tatcha Indigo Cleansing Balm, and it is pretty expensive. It's $38 for a regular size container, and I just have this little size container. And this product has a little bit of a blue color in it, which I think is a natural blue from the indigo that is in here that's supposed to be a skincare ingredient according to them. And this product was not very good for my skin either. I think it did irritate both my skin and my eyes, so that was unfortunate. And then when we move on to products that do have some kind of a scent to them, it is the case that Pharmacy has a line of scented cleansing balms that have worked really, really well for me. So the ones that I like are available just on the Pharmacy website, and they tend to be all limited edition products, and they don't have any kind of essential oils in them, and they don't have any natural processed fragrance, like for instance linalool, but they do have what's listed as flavor, and then they also have some extracts in them. And so I think that these are fairly similar to the Clinique Take the Day Off product, except they have somewhat cleaner ingredient lists and that they don't seem to include any plastics in them, and they do have these little bit of a scent to them. And so right now they have one on the market that is called the Pharmacy Honey Vanilla Clean. So this one does have a vanillin scent to it, but I haven't found that to be too objectionable. I'm usually not that crazy about vanilla in lipsticks, but I think that in this cleansing balm it's been more appealing to me. And then I have gotten this one, which is called Pharmacy Strawberry Shortcake Clean. This one may not be available right now. And I also have gotten this one, which is called Sweet Apple Clean. And then there was one that was called Peaches and Clean, I think, also. And so all of those have been really nice for me, and they have been, along with the Lisa Eldridge ones, really my go-to cleansers when I really just want to take off makeup that's a little bit heavier and a little harder to get off without having to do a second cleanse. And then this product is sold on the Credo site, and I think this is actually one of the more popular products on the entire Credo site of all kinds. And this is called the One Love Organics Cleansing Oil, which is $42. And so it has sunflower seed oil as the first ingredient, and it does have some ingredients in it that have a little bit of a scent to them. It says natural fragrance, and I feel like it smells really mostly just like pineapple, and certainly I think it's a natural pineapple fragrance to it. And I don't think it's really been irritating for me. Other than that, I think that it's actually been fine. Of course, it does have a liquid consistency to it, so that is a little bit more on the messy side, but I have used this both on my face and to take swatches off of my hand, and I think it's actually a really nice product. And then I have this product from Mad Hippie, and this one is called the Mad Hippie Cleansing Oil, and for a bottle that is this size, which is 2 ounces, it is $18, so that one's a little bit less expensive. And this one has mostly just straightforward oils in it, so it has safflower oil, squalane, rosa canina oil, and pumpkin seed oil, and oat kernel oil. And this one does have a few ingredients in it that have a very mild scent. And so one of those is ginger root extract, and the other one is a key lime extract. And I do think it has a very slight smell to it, but I don't think that it's an unpleasant smell at all, and I don't think this has been irritating for my skin. And it does come in a pump bottle. And in general, I think that my skin has been fine with this one, and so I would be willing to use it, although again, I would prefer a one-step cleanser rather than one I have to use a second cleanser afterwards. And then in terms of the scented makeup removers that have caused me irritation, there's a couple of products from Beauty Counter that seem to be very similar to one another, except that one is in like a liquid form and one is in a balm form. And both of these include quite a few different essential oils, including rose geranium oil, and I do seem to be just plain allergic to rose geranium oil. So in general, I think that if you are allergic or sensitive to any kind of essential oils, then you may not be able to tolerate this particular product. And then Biossance is a company that I do like a lot of their skincare products, such as their moisturizers, but in terms of their cleansing oil, this one does have a lot of fragrance ingredients in it, so it has a whole bunch of different essential oils in it, and so that has caused me some irritation when I've tried to use this product. And then Pharmacy Green Clean, this is a really, really popular product, and it is very similar to the Pharmacy Cleansing Balm that has the strawberry or the vanilla or the apple scent to it, except that it does have some essential oils in it. And so some of the ingredients that are in here that do give it a scent include limonene, orange oil, ylang-ylang oil, citral, lime oil, bergamot oil, and linalool. And so for me, those oils are just kind of annoying. And so if I do use that as something to remove my makeup, then I definitely need to use something after it in order to remove the remnants of it. And so that is not something that I really would prefer to be doing. Now, I will say that if you can tolerate those oils, that this particular product does include some PEGs in it, just as the other scented formula from Pharmacy does include some PEGs in it. And so therefore, it should rinse off of your skin really, really easily without necessarily needing to use a second cleanse with it. And Tatcha makes just a plain cleansing oil, and this is called the Camellia Cleansing Oil. And unfortunately for me, this one includes natural fragrance and limonene in it. And I think that if it hadn't been for those ingredients, then I think that this would be fine for me. And I do like the fact that it includes a fermented ingredient in it, because my skin does usually like fermented ingredients, but with those fragrance ingredients and essential oils in it, I think it's better for me to avoid this one. It was a little bit irritating for me when I have used it. And then True Botanicals is another company that when I was first starting out, I really was hoping that I could use a variety of their products, but almost all of their products do include some kind of essential oils or other kind of irritating fragrance type ingredients in them, and my skin does do really poorly with all of them. And so this particular product is cleansing balm, which is called the Ginger Turmeric Cleansing Balm. And so in terms of the problematic ingredients in this one for me, it does include ginger root oil, which my skin definitely does not like, and also tangerine peel oil and neroli oil. And it also includes some oat kernel oil, and so that is something that I'm always suspicious about as well because of the glyphosate contamination issue. And so I have heard some people that have really liked this product. This is one that is definitely quite greasy, and so therefore if you use this product, then I think you definitely need a second cleanse afterwards. And I didn't really like the smell of it, and I certainly think that it was not good for my skin. And so now let's move on to the kind of cleansers that I use on a regular basis, either after I have used a makeup removing oil or when I am not wearing very much makeup that is going to be very difficult to remove. So let's start out by talking about the kinds of cleansers that I have used the most frequently and that I do think have worked out the best for me. And these are cream cleansers that do not include any kind of fragrance in them. And so the first one on the list, if we go alphabetically, is one that is actually quite expensive. And this one is from a company called Augustinus Bader, and it comes in a fairly large container. This has 3.38 fluid ounces, and it is a glass container. And my experience with the Augustinus Bader products in general has been pretty good. So Augustinus Bader is a German stem cell researcher who is associated with apparently a pretty good university there. And he has developed a line of skin care that is based on a proprietary peptide that he developed that is supposed to be encouraging the body's own stem cells to work better and to help to regenerate the skin based on any kind of aging or other kinds of issues that may be going on with it. And I did a experiment last year where for the whole year I just used the Augustinus Bader Rich Cream on half of my face. And I did come to the conclusion that I thought that it made a difference for me, and so I have continued to use that cream. And I did a video on this last year, so you can take a look at that video if you're interested in that. Now, in terms of this Augustinus Bader cleanser, this does have some of that peptide in it. The peptide is called oligopeptide 177, and this is listed on the ingredient list for this, but I'm not sure how much of this it has in it. And I also think it's obviously going to be the case that even if it did have a lot of that peptide in it, that putting it in a cleanser would not be that effective because a cleanser is only left on the skin for a very brief period of time and then rinsed off. However, I do think that nonetheless that this has been a pretty good cleanser for me, and I do think that the ingredient list looks pretty good. I especially like the fact that the sweet almond oil is the second ingredient and glycerin is the first ingredient after water. Now, the one ingredient in here that I have heard some people say that they think may be problematic for them is called Cisaembrio seed oil, and this is a natural ingredient that is supposed to be anti-puffing, but I have heard that some people say that they might react to it, so that would be something to be a little bit concerned about, possibly. Now, one thing that I will say about Augustinus Bader that people should know is that if you buy from the Augustinus Bader website and they send you the products, that it seems that they will not take any products back under any circumstances. And so if you react to the product, I wouldn't expect to be able to get a refund or any kind of compensation if that occurs. So I think that unless you're really sure that you are going to be doing okay with the products from Augustinus Bader, that purchasing from somewhere else that does offer a good refund policy might be a safer idea. So for instance, these products are available from Blue Mercury and from Sephora and also from places like Nordstrom. So that might be a better choice if you're not sure about whether or not you're going to be able to tolerate the products. So I mostly purchased this product because I thought it would be a good one to try, and I have been really happy with it. Whether or not I would actually spring for it in terms of buying it again, just for my own personal use, I'm not sure. I think that there are some other cleansers out there that are effective for me, and that my skincare dollars might be better spent on products like moisturizers that are going to be staying on my skin for a longer period of time. But other than that, I personally have nothing bad to say about this product. I have really liked it, and I do feel like my skin does really well with it. Now, the next cleanser on the list is one from Aveda, and this is called the Aveda Botanical Kinetics All Sensitive Cleanser, and last I checked it was $38. And I feel like of all of the products that I've ever purchased from Aveda, this is really the only one that I've ever really, really liked. I do think that I've been really, really pleased with how this has performed for me, especially on my own really dry skin, and especially during the winter months. And I haven't actually stocked up on it this winter because I do have so many other cleansers that I'm trying to go through at the moment. But in terms of using this for the winter time, I think that this is a really rich cleanser, and it has done really well on my skin. I don't feel like it's been irritating at all, and I do think that this is one that I feel good about using. And there are a couple ingredients in here that ordinarily I'm a little bit concerned about. One of those is algae extract, and my concern about algae extract is always just that it could conceivably be contaminated with something from the sea. So it could be contaminated, for instance, with cyanobacteria toxin or metals. And then this also has salicylic acid in it, and I'm not always really enthusiastic about salicylic acid either. I do think that, especially if it's in a pure form, or if there's too much of it, that is something that my skin doesn't really seem to like very much. That is supposed to be helpful for acne type issues, but in this case I don't feel like I've noticed anything happening like that in terms of it irritating my skin at all or drying it out. This is actually just such a rich cleanser that even if it does have a little bit of drying effect in some of the ingredients, I think that the cleanser itself is replacing those oils. And then this is a brand new cleanser that I just tried recently. The company actually sent this to me. And this is from a company that is called Blissoma, and it is a small independent company. And this is another expensive product, but it does have a lot of really, really high quality ingredients in it. And I'm not seeing anything in this product that I think would be irritating to my skin or that EWG does feel concerned about. And in this particular product, some of the oils that are in it include grapeseed oil, sunflower seed oil, and it has the soap bark extract in it, and then a few other ingredients that I think are probably also good for the skin, including a fermented ingredient. And I've only used this a few times, and I haven't really used it that much to try to get off really heavy-duty makeup, so I don't have a real strong opinion about it. But I do think it's been very nice for my skin. I do think that my skin feels good when I use it, and I think it does a reasonable good job in taking off regular makeup that I'm wearing, so I'm going to keep trying this some more. But so far, I do think that this is a good product that I am happy to be trying out. And then the next cleanser is one from Evan Healy, which is called the Simply Basic Cleansing Milk. And I actually really, really like this, and it seems like it has just been taken off of the Evan Healy website. It was on sale for a while in terms of their remaining inventory, and now I don't think it's being stocked at all. So that is really unfortunate, because I did really, really like this cleanser, and I thought that it was really gentle on my skin. And this includes kaolin, which is a clay. So I think that that has somewhat of a cleansing benefit to it, but then it also has coconut oil and shea butter. And I found that to be really gentle. Now, Evan Healy does sell a couple of other cleansers that have essential oils in them. So some of them have lavender and chamomile in them, and another one has rose geranium oil and maybe rose oil in it. And so those are not ones that I want to use on my skin, because I don't think that my skin responds well to those essential oils. So for people that want a cleanser that might have a scent in it and that don't mind certain kinds of essential oils, then I think that in general the basic formula for this product is really, really good. And then the next cleanser that I've really enjoyed is from FitGlow. And FitGlow is a skincare company that tends to use a lot of fermented ingredients in their skincare products, and I think that these have all been really, really good for me. I do feel like whatever kinds of fermented ingredients they are using in here, that it does seem to be really good for the microbiome of my skin. So if my skin is feeling actually irritated or just kind of out of sorts, I often will specifically turn to one or more of the products from the Fit Glow company, because I do think that they do a good job of bringing my skin back into balance. And I think that the reason for that is because of these fermented ingredients. And one thing to know about these fermented ingredients is that they seem to be creating their own special concoction that has things like berries in it. And so when I first started to use some of these Fit Glow products, I was really surprised because they seem to have a really strong scent in them, even though they didn't have any essential oils or any kind of scent ingredients on the label. And I almost suspected briefly that it might even be a synthetic fragrance. But it actually turned out to smell so good to me that I kind of tend to believe their assertion that this is just caused by the ingredients that are in that ferment, and that it is some kind of a berry type of an ingredient that is giving it that scent. And I think that in terms of my skin liking it, my skin generally really dislikes most kinds of scent ingredients, regardless of whether they are natural processed fragrances or essential oils or synthetic fragrances especially. But in the case of these particular products from Fit Glow, they all seem to get along with my skin really, really well. So I think that it just includes a variety of ingredients that are very high quality, and I'm not seeing any ingredients in this that I think should be problematic, and I don't think that my skin has reacted negatively to it in any way. And then the next cleanser is from a company called Unscented, and this is Korean. And so you can pick this up from, for instance, iHerb or other kinds of companies that sell Korean type products. So there are a number of different kinds of cleansers from Unscented that are sold on iHerb, but I looked at the ingredients for all of them, and the one that I decided to try first was this one that is called the Yam Root Vegan Milk Cleanser, and I think that this one has been really terrific for me. I've been really happy with it. And so I do think that this is a particularly gentle product, and it is very creamy. It's quite thick. It's almost as thick as that Aveda cleanser, actually. And the main ingredients in this, it has sunflower seed oil as the first ingredient. And I see that, like the Augustinus Butter cleanser, that this one does have the sweet almond seed extract in it, and I think that that might be helpful too. And it does smell really good to me. I'm sometimes a little bit concerned about sunflower seed oil because it does have the potential of going rancid. But I've had this for about a year, and I've used up most of the bottle, and I still think it's smelling really good to me. And I haven't tried a lot of Korean products, but my experience with this one does make me want to try a lot more Korean skincare products, because I think in terms of the value that this one has been really good. And then another product that I have really liked that has been reasonably priced is the cream cleanser from Mad Hippie. So Mad Hippie is a brand that I'm kind of hit and miss with. Some of the products from that company have not been good for me at all, but a few of them have been quite good, and this one is definitely my favorite, and it is one of my favorite cleansers that are on the market, especially when you consider the price. And so the price last time I checked was $16, and I think that that is a very good price for a cleanser like this, especially since it is in glass, and especially considering the ingredients that are in this. So the ingredients are sesame oil is the first ingredient after water, and then it has shea butter also in the first 6 ingredients, and vegetable glycerin. I'm not that crazy about seeing the carrageenan gum on the first several ingredients. I think that that has the potential of being contaminated, and carrageenan is not something that I'm really liking when I see it in food. And so I'm not sure if it's great to put on my skin either, but nonetheless, I feel like this has been fine for me. And this also has orchid extract in it, and I think that that has been okay for me, but I could see some people reacting to the orchid extract, and I also think it could be that sometimes the carrageenan could be contaminated. And so I have heard maybe one person say that they did react to this, and of course anybody can react to anything. But nonetheless, I think that most people that I have talked to that have tried this, even if they have sensitive skin, they seem to be doing pretty well with it. And I've been doing well with it, and I've purchased a few bottles of it so far. And sesame oil is an ingredient that could go bad, could definitely go rancid. And this is, I think, their old packaging, so I'm thinking I should probably use this up pretty quickly. But nonetheless, when I'm smelling it now, it seems to smell fine to me. I'm not thinking that it smells rancid at all. And this is one of those creamier cleansers, so it is a little bit on the thick side. And so I think especially for winter, this has been a good product for me. And then the next cleanser is from Typology, and Typology is a company that I seem to do really, really well with, and I did do a whole video on Typology last year that you can take a look at if you like. But in any case, I was a little bit suspicious about this cleansing milk of theirs because it includes an ingredient that is called sodium lauryl sarcosinate, which I think is a little bit of a surfactant, and so that made me a little bit nervous, and that is the first ingredient after water. But nonetheless, I decided to give it a try just because I was trying so many different Typology products, and I actually have done fine with this. I haven't found it to be irritating at all. I haven't found it to be drying at all, and my skin does really, really like it. And so some of the other ingredients that are in this product, it includes coconut oil, and it includes sodium hyaluronate in it, and glycerin. And in general, I do feel like this has been a nice, kind of mild cleanser that my skin has done well with. And I don't think that it is quite as oily or as heavy as some of these other cleansers. So this is one that I actually feel works well for me both during the winter and during the summer, and that I think might be okay for people, even if you don't have really dry skin like mine. And then another cleanser that I have really liked, and that is a fairly reasonable price, I think it was $20 when I purchased it on Amazon really recently, is the one from Weleda, which is called Sensitive Care Cleansing Lotion. And this is made in Germany, and it has a pretty simple ingredient list of ingredients that I feel like are pretty high quality. And so this includes a sweet almond oil, which I do think makes it for a pretty good cleanser. And it has alcohol as the second ingredient after water, so that concerned me a little bit. And then it also has glycerin and hydrolyzed beeswax, which I also thought was a little bit surprising. But it also has plum seed oil, and then it has lactic acid in it, so it's a little bit exfoliating for the skin. And so I was a little bit uncertain about that ingredient list, but in general, I think this has been quite nice for my skin. My skin seems to have done fine with it. It does seem kind of simple. It's not quite as thick and as complex as some of the other cleansers that are out there, but I think in terms of the quality of the ingredients, it has been fine for me. And in terms of how my skin has reacted to it, I think it's a plain, basic cleanser that I think has been perfectly fine. And I'm not sure if Beautycounter is going to be coming back or not. Now they are saying that they are going to be relaunching their company during the middle of the summer. And I'm not sure if they do relaunch, if they're going to have the same products as before. But I thought that I would mention here the Beautycounter products that I have tried in terms of the cleansers, just in case they do come back, sort of for the record. So one that I have thought was okay and that I did use up the bottle, it was called the Beautycounter Counter Start Cleanser, and it used to cost $22. And this has a fairly simple ingredient list. It was a little bit on the heavier side, so I think it's more appropriate, or it was more appropriate for drier skin. And it included some coconut oil and sunflower seed oil, and then a variety of ingredients that are more like processed laboratory type of moisturizers. And in general, I thought that that one was fine for me, and it was not too expensive. And a cleanser that I have used in the past and that I thought was kind of okay, and that is certainly a very reasonable price, is the Burt's Bees Sensitive Facial Cleanser. And that is priced at around $10. Now, the version that I used, it looks like it had a slightly different ingredient list, and then in particular, it used to have cotton flower extract in it. And it looks like in the version that they are selling now that that has been removed, but otherwise it looks like the ingredient list is primarily the same. And I'll say that I wasn't real crazy about the concept that it had cotton flower extract in it anyway, because I feel like cotton flower, or cotton in general, tends to be highly contaminated with glyphosate, and so that always did make me nervous to begin with, so I'm not sorry at all to see that that has been removed, and I actually feel like maybe I should go give it another try just to see how I feel about it. But in general, I do think that as drugstore type of cleansers go, that a lot of people do like that Burt's Bees one. And I did use it for quite a while. I'm not sure if I finished up the bottle or if I sent it on to a friend. But in any case, I don't think it was too bad. And so if you really want a cleanser that is more like a drugstore, then I think that that would be a possible option. And so although it's the case that I think a lot of times that cream cleansers that don't have fragrance in do work out well for me, there have been a couple that I have tried that have been at least somewhat irritating. So the first one is from a company called Bubble, and this is called the Soft Launch Hydrating Cream Cleanser. And I did pick this one up. It just came out really recently, but they were claiming that this was supposed to be especially appropriate for sensitive skin, so I figured that I should go and give that a try, even though I haven't really had all that much success with really any of the Bubble products that I've tried so far. And this is a brand of products that is fairly inexpensive, and it is supposed to be targeted largely to young people, like teenagers, or maybe people in their 20s. And it is priced fairly reasonably, and you can get it at places like Ulta. And in this case, I found that the product was slightly irritating for my skin. So certainly irritating enough that I wouldn't want to use it. But I probably also can see that some people may be able to tolerate it if they don't have skin that is as sensitive as mine, because I feel like the amount of irritation that I had from it was fairly mild. And if I look at the ingredient list for this, I am a little bit suspicious about this ingredient that is called cocamidopropyl hydroxy sultane. So I think that this is a surfactant that is somewhat similar to one that is called cocamidopropyl betaine, but this one might be a little bit less annoying to people's skin if they have really sensitive skin. But nonetheless, I think it's still in the same category, and that probably is part of the reason that I did react to this. And then there are some other ingredients here, like in the first 6 ingredients, that I don't feel necessarily that I feel as good about as the kinds of ingredients that are in some of those other cleansers. And CeraVe makes a cleanser that is called Hydrating Cleanser, and a lot of people seem to think that people with sensitive skin should be able to tolerate CeraVe products, so I did give this a try. And in general, I have not done well with any kind of CeraVe products at all. I think that all of them have been irritating for me, or almost all of them in terms of the ones that I've tried. And this one was no exception to that, and I'm not sure even what ingredient in this is the most problematic. This does have one ingredient that is called bihentramonium methosulfate, which is often used in hair conditioners. I've rarely seen that in any kind of face product, so I think that that might not be that great of an idea to put in this. But in general, although this has some ceramides in it and sodium hyaluronate in it, my skin really did not like that at all. And then just a couple of days ago, I was at Sephora, and I saw that Pharmacy has a new product that is called the Green Clean Gentle Creamy Cleanser that was being displayed at the front of the store, and it says fragrance-free on the bottle. And so I am a really big fan of the Pharmacy makeup removers, certain ones of those. So I did think that for sure I wanted to pick this up. Now, Pharmacy is owned by Procter & Gamble, and so that does make me a little skeptical about anything that they offer. But nonetheless, I decided to give this a try, and unfortunately, I did find that this was mildly irritating to my skin at all. I think fairly similarly to the one from Bubble, and this has that same ingredient in it. So the first ingredient is water, and then it has glycerin, and then it has that same surfactant in it, which is called cocamidopropyl hydroxysultane, and then it has a couple of other ingredients in it that are also potentially surfactant type ingredients. And so even though it does have some moisturizing type ingredients in it, it might be that my skin just doesn't like that surfactant that is in it, and that it is either drying my skin out too much, or a lot of times those surfactants have a little bit of some kind of contamination in them as well. Now, another ingredient that is in this product that I think possibly could be concerning is the fact that this has oats in it, and in particular it has oat kernel oil in it, and it even says on the front of the container that it has moringa plus oats in it. And that is a potential problem because oats are often sprayed with glyphosate as a pre-harvest desiccant, and what happens is that the glyphosate will kill the plant and allow it to be harvested earlier, and therefore if you are growing a product like oats in a climate that has a short growing season, like in Canada, then you can dry it out and then harvest it before winter comes and before it gets moldy. And so that is something that I think is problematic for me because there are residues on the oats of the glyphosate, and I think that my skin just doesn't like glyphosate in any quantity from what I've been able to determine. And then Glossier sells a product that is called the Milky Jelly Cleanser. It doesn't have any fragrance ingredients in it, just rose water, which I don't think is, at least that's not problematic for me. And this includes something that's called Polaxamer 184 in it. This is often used in contact lens solution, and so Glossier is kind of making the argument that this is used in contact lens solution, and so therefore you can know that it's not irritating. And then it has a couple of other ingredients in it, including PEG, which can have contamination with ingredients that you really don't want on your skin from the production process. In general, I did not feel like this was a product that I wanted to use, and so I used it a few times to try it out, and then I gave it away. And so I wouldn't use this again myself. But again, I think compared to an awful lot of the products that are on the market, this one might not be the worst thing in the world that people could use. And some people have told me that they've done okay with it. And then also The Ordinary has a product that is called the Squalane Cleanser. And this has squalane as the first ingredient, and then it has some other kinds of creamy ingredients in it, including a macadamia nut derivative. The isocetith 20, I'm not sure about that one. That one can have some contamination in it. But regardless, this particular product definitely was irritating for my skin. And in general, I really just don't think I do that well with either products from The Ordinary or products from Inkey List. And that even though those are supposed to have ingredients that a lot of people do well with, I think that maybe they are using maybe less high quality versions of some of those ingredients, because in general my skin does tend to react to those products. And so now let's move on to cream cleansers that do have some kind of a scent to them. And all of these have a natural scent. I don't ever use products that just list fragrance, but some of these do have essential oils or other kinds of natural processed fragrances in them. And so the first one is from a company called Anne Marie, and I think that of all the fragrance type products that are on the market, these are really the only ones that I really seem to like. And in general, I do feel like all of the products from Anne Marie that I have used, that I have been able to tolerate them, and in general, I do think that they smell really, really good to me. So they use occasional essential oils, which I think tend to be ones that are less irritating for me. And then they also use a lot of extracts. And in general, I really do like the way that these smell, and I haven't had any problems. And I've used, for instance, their eye cream, and I've used one of their facial oils. And then this cleanser is called the Aloe Herb Cleanser, and it's supposed to be herb infused. And in terms of the essential oils that are in this, it does include some citrus oils, including ruby red grapefruit, lemon peel, mandarin, and aspen bark. But regardless, it doesn't seem to have irritated my face. And I'm not sure that I always do all that well with citrus essential oils in particular, but this one seems to have been fine for me. Now, the unfortunate thing about the Anne Marie products is that they do tend to be really, really expensive. And so although I have used a few of them occasionally, and I've repurchased their facial oil, anti-aging facial oil, I think it's called. In general, for this one, I've just tried this little bottle of the cleanser, and I do think it's been perfectly fine on my skin. I don't think my skin's been irritated. I think as a basic cleanser, this is particularly nice. And so if people are looking for a cleanser that has a mild, pleasant scent in it that might not be irritating, then I think that this is a good choice. And I think that, most of these products do tend to have a fairly small window of usage where you're supposed to use it up. But in this case, I think that I purchased this maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I used part of this bottle, and then I managed to just put it aside. And when I used it really recently, it still smells fine to me, and my skin seems to be reacting fine to it. And so in general, I don't have anything bad to say about this, but it is kind of on the pricey side. And then Tata Harper is a line of skincare that is also quite expensive. And a lot of their products do have a lot of fragrance type ingredients in them. And some of those ingredients do seem to be irritating for me. So in terms of their regular line of products, a lot of them do seem to be a little bit problematic. And then in addition, they have a line that's supposed to be more appropriate for sensitive skin that they call Superkind. And this cleanser, I don't think it's part of the Superkind line, but it is supposed to be, it says that it's supposed to be better for sensitive skin. And this is called the Softening Cleanser. And I think that this has been okay for me. I've only used it a few times. I just have this little sample container of it. But I think it's been fine. And I think that in terms of the first 6 ingredients, it looks fairly pretty good. And it doesn't seem to have surfactants in it. And I think it's done a reasonable job of cleansing my skin. In terms of the scent ingredients in this, the main thing that I was a little bit concerned about was the phenethyl alcohol. So phenethyl alcohol is an ingredient that could be based on roses, but mostly I think that it is a laboratory ingredient in that it's supposed to offer a rose note, and it's actually used in the perfume industry for that. And so even though in a lot of cases people say that products that have phenethyl alcohol in them are actually unscented, I don't think that's the case at all. It smells pretty strongly of roses to me most of the time. And I do think that I react to that in a lot of cases. But in this particular cleanser, it must be a fairly small amount of it because I don't think that I've reacted to that. And this one does include lactic acid in it, and I don't think that that has been irritating to my skin, and it is a cream cleanser. So usually if something has lactic acid in it, but it's a creamy type of a moisturizing formula, I usually am able to tolerate that a lot better than I would be able to tolerate just putting lactic acid on my skin. So I would say that in general, I think that this has not been bad for me, and I would not necessarily recommend that people not give it a try. But I also think that it is so expensive that I think that there are other things that are doing at least as well and probably a lot better for me than this product, and therefore springing for that much to spend on it hasn't been my strategy. And then the next cleanser is one that is from a company called Cocokind. And so this is a company that makes fairly inexpensive products. It sells at places like Target. And this is called the Oil to Milk Cleanser. And last I checked, it was $18. And I used this fairly early on when I was just sort of randomly trying some different things to see what would work for me. And I feel like this wasn't too bad for my skin at the time. I don't feel like it was particularly irritating, and I feel like I was able to tolerate it. And when I went back and used it recently, I thought that I was still really able to tolerate it. I don't think it was irritating, and that's a little bit surprising because when I look at this ingredient list now, it does make me a little bit nervous. In particular because it has rose geranium oil in it, and I feel like I am really reactive to rose geranium oil in general, and that my skin is just plain allergic to it. But the odd thing is that when I have tried smelling this, I don't think it really smells like rose geranium oil. So even though this is listed on the ingredient list, I don't think it includes too much of the rose geranium oil in it. And then this also includes oat kernel extract and oat kernel oil, and so that would also make me a little bit nervous about it. So in general, I don't know that I would want to use this on a regular basis. And I think that in terms of the consistency of the product, now that I have a lot of other things to compare it to, I'm not really liking the way that it kind of goes on my skin and feels on my skin as much as I'm liking a lot of these other products. But in terms of products that are not very expensive I think that this one hasn't been too bad, and so this is one that I think that people could consider using. And I think that a lot of that is because I think the first several ingredients in this one are pretty good. So it includes sunflower seed oil, glycerin, grapeseed oil, and baobab oil, and a lactobacillus ferment. And I tend to do really well with fermented ingredients in general. So I think that maybe the fact that it has all of those high quality oils in it is kind of diluting any kind of negative effects that some of these ingredients might have. And it also doesn't seem to have any surfactants as a major ingredient. So that one has been helpful for me too, I think. And then moving along to the products that I have tried and that have caused some irritation and that I wouldn't use again for that reason. The first one here is the Burt's Bees Renewal Refining Cleanser for $10. And so I think this one is actually fairly similar to the one that's for sensitive skin, except this one does include some fragrance ingredients in it. But in terms of the main ingredients for the product, I'm not seeing anything that really concerns me or that I feel like is a surfactant that would be drying for the skin. And it also includes some bakuchiol in it, and I do feel like my skin has done really well with bakuchiol. That is an ingredient that is supposed to be like a natural retinol. So in general, I think that if you're looking for a cleanser that has a scent to it and that is not very expensive, I'm not sure that I would necessarily exclude that one from the market. I think that it's probably a lot better than the vast majority of things that you're likely to find at the drugstore, for instance, or at Walmart. And then next is the version of the Evan Healy product that does have a scent in it that I've tried. So this is called the Evan Healy Rose Cleansing Milk, and I feel like the ingredients for this are exactly the same as the product that I liked, except that it does have rose geranium oil in it and then a couple of other flower extracts, including some of the lavender flower extract and honeysuckle. And so I did not do well with that particular product, but if your skin is able to tolerate those essential oils, then that could be one to consider, especially since the one that's for sensitive skin is not on the market anymore, at least for the time being. And then there's a company that is called Fresh, and this is a company that is owned by LVMH, and it is sold at Sephora. And most of the products from Fresh do contain synthetic fragrance in them or unspecified fragrance, and so I wouldn't even bother to try those. But early on in my journey with regard to learning about things, I did try the Fresh Soy Face Cleanser because it didn't include any synthetic fragrance in it. But it does have rose oil and rose extract in it, and I have concluded over time that my skin does tend to be a little bit irritated by rose oil, less so than rose geranium oil, but it's still not something that I want to be using. Other than that, I think that this particular cleanser could have been okay for me. I think it probably was just the rose oil that is in it, because I'm not seeing any ingredients in this that really concern me. And it does have a few nice ingredients in it, like borage seed oil, that I think could conceivably be a nice ingredient to put on the skin. And then next we have a product from Skin Fix, and so this is kind of a moderately priced brand that is sold at Sephora, and it seems to get a lot of attention at Sephora. And so this is called Skin Fix Barrier Plus Foaming Oil Cleanser. And so this does come out of the tube as an oil, but then when you put it on your face, it gets a little bit bubbly. And I would have thought, based on reading about this particular line, that it might be good for my skin. It is supposed to be unscented, and it is supposed to be good for sensitive skin or skin with eczema, things like that. But I really haven't had very good experiences actually with any of the Skin Fix products that I have purchased. Now, in terms of this particular product, one thing that I do see on the ingredient list is the phenethyl alcohol. So again, even though this is supposed to be an unfragranced product, it does have the phenethyl alcohol in it, and I do think it has a little bit of a rose scent in it. And I also see in this particular product that it has the cocamidopropyl hydroxy sultane in it. So this is the same ingredient that was in some of the other products that I was talking about earlier, including the one from pharmacy. And so I think that that could be a product that is making this not great for me also. And so now let's move along to cleansers that seem less like they are pure cream cleansers and that are more like gel cleansers or foamy cleansers, things like that. And so the first one that I'll start out with is this one from Beauty Counter. And again, I'm not sure if this is ever going to be available again, but this is called the Beauty Counter Counter Match Cleanser, and it was $35, so that is sort of like mid-priced. And it was called the Refresh Foaming Cleanser. And this one surprised me a little bit because I actually kind of liked it. And I liked it enough to finish up a bottle of it and buy this new bottle of it, which I haven't used yet. I think of this as more like a summertime cleanser. It is really foamy. And it turns out when I look at this ingredient list that it does have a couple of different surfactants in it. One of those is the second ingredient, which is sodium cocoyl isethionate, and then it also has as the sixth ingredient the cocamidopropyl hydroxy sultane, which I just said that I am slightly trying to avoid now that I suspect that it's not great for my skin. And I feel like this one has actually been okay, especially for the summer. I don't feel like it's dried out my skin or irritated it. So I'm not sure why that would be the case. I think it's possible that Beauty Counter has particularly careful with regard to the sourcing of ingredients. And it also could be the case that, for instance, this has plum kernel extract as the second ingredient after water. And I do think that my skin really, really likes the plum kernel oil, and that helps to add a lot of moisture to the skin. So it could be that that was helping to dilute the effects of the surfactants as well. And then just during 2024, Ilia started to release a few new skincare for the first time, and so far all of them have been really terrific. And so one of the ones that I tried was called the Cleanse, and this is another soft foaming cleanser. And this has a really kind of simple ingredient list. I'm not seeing anything in this that makes it seem like it should be a really moisturizing or skincare focused type of a cleanser, but I also am not seeing anything in here that looks like it would be problematic. But I do feel like during the summer that when I was sweating or I felt like my skin was a little more dirty and sort of greasy than it is during the winter months, that this actually did a very nice job in terms of that. And so I did really like this, and I think that I will continue to use this occasionally, at least during the summer months. And I think if I had skin that was more oily or a little bit less dry, that this would be something that I would feel comfortable using all year. And it is really, really foamy. So if you're looking for a product that does have a lot of foam to it, then this would be one to consider. And this cleanser is from one of my very favorite skincare brands, and this is called the Outset. And this is Scarlett Johansson's line, and it is specifically designed to target people who have sensitive skin, and particularly people whose skin tends to get messed up and needs to be brought back into balance. And so this particular product is called the Gentle Micellar Antioxidant Cleanser, and it is a gel-based cleanser. And I have found this to be a particularly good cleanser for me during the summer months. I think that it has just a little bit of foaminess to it, and it doesn't have any oil in it. And I think if I am trying to cleanse my skin from sweat and other kinds of summertime stuff, that this one works pretty well for me for that. But I also think that I can use it during the winter months and that it is not too drying for my skin. But I also think that it probably would be really appropriate for people that have skin that is considerably more oily than mine. And that in general, if I wanted to pick one cleanser that I thought that really anybody anybody could use, this would probably be the first one on my list because I do think the ingredient list looks really good to me and it has worked out really, really well for me. Now, it is a micellar cleanser, and so that name suggests that it should be able to take off makeup, and I think it does a pretty good job of taking off kind of lighter makeup for me. I don't feel like it's particularly suited to taking off really waterproof type makeup. I think that a cream cleanser or a cleansing oil would be a lot better for that for me. But in terms of taking off sort of regular everyday makeup that I wear all the time, I think this one is really terrific. And then the next product is from Youthforia, and this is called Night Off Deep Cleaning Green Tea Jelly Cleanser. And so this is a brand that seems to be targeting more young people. And so this is not a cleanser that really seems to have any substantial amounts of oil in it at all, but I do think that it is very gentle for my skin and that I am able to use it during the summer months, especially when my skin is less dry than it is during the winter, and that it does seem to do really well in terms of removing the sweat from my skin without drying it out and without causing it any irritation. And I think it does have some very, very small, fine exfoliating particles in it, and I haven't found those to be irritating or harsh at all either. And I feel like if I'm going to be using a cleansing oil on my skin, that this is often one that I will use after the cleansing oil. And I think it does work really nicely in collaboration with the cleansing oils that I have used. And then a few other products that I have been willing to use and that haven't irritated my skin, but that I wouldn't say would be my favorites in this category. One of those is the Drunk Elephant Erase Milky Micellar Water. So in general, I think that micellar waters can take off makeup to a certain extent, but I don't think that they do as good of a job of taking off the makeup as these oil cleansers do. And I would put this in that category, and I would say that compared to other micellar waters that I've used, this one is actually pretty good. And so I have been fairly happy to use this, and I think if I'm wearing light makeup that this does a fairly good job of taking off the makeup and leaving my skin in the position that I don't need to use a second cleanser for it. But if I have on heavier makeup, then I don't think that this product does as good of a job. And this product is called the Drunk Elephant Peaky Cleansing Bar, and this actually just looks like a little bar of soap, but it is actually a really mild facial cleanser, and I don't think it has any ingredients in it that are real drying, and I also don't think it has any ingredients in it that are likely to be irritating. And I tend not to like bar soap like this, but in this case I think that this has been fine for my skin, and so I don't mind using it. And so especially if you have skin that is a little bit more on the oily side, then I think that this could be a good cleanser to use that is kind of safe for the skin. And I will say that that one does have wheat starch in it, so if you do have a wheat allergy, then that might be one to avoid. And then next I have a cleanser from Dr. Barbara Sturm, and this is just called Cleanser. And this is another foamy product, and it does come out of this container quite foamy. And it is seems like it has a few mild surfactants in the ingredient list, but I don't feel like this one has been problematic for me. I feel like it's not my favorite cleanser to use, but I don't think that it's been irritating to my skin. And I feel like if I do use it, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And this one is not really oily at all. I'm not even seeing any oil type ingredients in this. It does have glycerin in the first 6 ingredients. And then it has a couple of fermented ingredients in it, and I think that one of those includes purslane, which is one of the ingredients that she believes is going to reduce inflammation. And in general, I do feel like my skin does react fairly well to the Dr. Barbara Sturm products in terms of it being gentle on my skin and not inflaming it. And so even though this is not a cleanser that I think I'm going to rebuy, I think that it's one that I actually am able to use, and it is very expensive though. And then another product that I've tried in the past is the Herbivore Pink Cloud Face Wash, which is $26. And I felt like this was a nice mild cleanser too. It doesn't have a lot of oil in it, but I feel like it was very gentle for my skin. One thing I will say about the Herbivore products though is that I don't think that they include very many preservatives in them, and so it probably would be a good idea to try to use those up fairly quickly if you do decide to use them. But for some people, the fact that it doesn't have a lot of preservatives in it might be a good thing, because conceivably that might make them less irritating. And then Honest Beauty, I am always a little bit surprised, because I feel like Honest Beauty doesn't have that many cleansers that I feel like are really good for me. And in general, I do like the rest of Honest Beauty's skincare products a lot. But the one that I have used that I conceivably would be willing to use again is the Honest Calm On Foaming Cleanser for $18. So this is supposed to be part of their sensitive skin line. But this one does have the surfactant in it that is called cocamidopropyl hydroxy sultane, and so I do feel like it's kind of drying for my skin, and so that has been a little bit of a disincentive for me to have tried using that product. And I do feel like this also has a little bit of an odd smell to it, and there are people that have objected to the scent of the product. I mean, it's unscented, but it does have a smell in it that people have suggested smells like baby throw up, maybe something like that. And I'm not sure I would go that far, but I wouldn't say that this is the best smelling unscented cleanser that I've used either. And then when I was at Sephora the other day, I also got them to give me a sample of the Laneige Water Bank Gentle Gel Cleanser. That cost $29, and that is brand new also. And I wasn't sure what to think about that, and that one does have a couple of different ingredients that look like they are surfactants in the first 6 ingredients. But I feel like that one was much, much more tolerable to me than the one from pharmacy that I actually ended up purchasing. So if I was going to purchase one of those two, I really should have gotten this one instead of the pharmacy one. I think this one's from Korea, and so that is another thing that is making me think that I should be looking into some of the Korean skincare a bit more than I have already. So I definitely don't feel like I like that one enough to actually go buy it, but I do think that as cleansers go, that one was not too bad for me. And then another product that I purchased that is actually really reasonably priced is from Pacifica, and this is called the Vegan Ceramide Extra Gentle Face Wash, Barrier Care Plus Marshmallow, Calendula, and lipids. And so it is fragrance-free, it's dermatologist tested, and they are suggesting that this is supposed to be good for sensitive skin. And in terms of the ingredient list, I'm not seeing anything that I feel really suspicious about in terms of likeliness to irritate my own skin. But I also just feel like in terms of the texture of this product, I didn't really like it that much. I feel like it was kind of on the sort of sticky side, and that it kind of left a little bit of a sticky film on my face that I wasn't crazy about. But I don't think it was irritating for my skin at all. And I think that there are a lot worse cleansers that I have used, and so that would be one to consider if you really want something that is not very expensive. And this brand is sold, for instance, at Ulta, I think. And now moving on to some of the gel cleansers or foamy cleansers that have caused my skin irritation. The first one is from Bubble, and this is called the Fresh Start Gel Cleanser. And as I say, I haven't had a lot of success with really any of the Bubble products that I have tried, and this one has definitely been irritating, probably more so than the creamy cleanser that I talked about earlier. But in general, I just don't think that this has been a good product for me. And if I look at the ingredient lists for this one, one thing that I am seeing is that I'm not sure if I like this first ingredient after water, which is called acrylates, steareth 20 methacrylate copolymer. That one sounds like it might be kind of problematic based on kind of what I know of that ingredient. And then it has red algae extract in it, which could be contaminated. But just in general, I'm not sure what the issue was, but I am not real inclined to buy a lot of Bubble products from now on. I think I might be able to find one or two that might be okay, but in general, this doesn't seem like a brand that is sort of meeting my standards. And then this cleanser from Drunk Elephant, this is called the Best No. 9 Jelly Cleanser. And this one does have a couple of surfactants in it, including cocamidopropyl betaine. And I think that in general, that's probably not a great ingredient for me. And this one is the second one after water. And then I see another ingredient in there that also looks like it's a surfactant. And so this does have a smaller amount of marula oil in it, and so that might make up for the surfactants a little bit, but in general, this is just not a good cleanser for me and my skin. And then First Aid Beauty has a cleanser that is called the Pure Skin Face Cleanser, and that is another brand that I had hoped that I would like early on, but that I don't feel like my skin has done all that well with. I think it's sort of like on the marginal side. And this particular cleanser I do think was irritating. I think that this sodium cocoyl isethionate, I think that that is surfactant, and maybe that is one of the reasons why. And then there are some other ingredients in here that I'm not sure I feel great about either. And then a product that I was really surprised that I didn't do well with, because it says that it has hyaluronic acid in it, and it is from Isntree, and I really did like the other cleanser from them that I tried, the cream cleanser one. This is called the Hyaluronic Acid Low pH Cleansing Foam, and I do think that this one was surprisingly irritating to my skin, actually more so than a lot of these other products that are out there. And I do think that this one has some surfactants in it, so that could have been an issue. And this ingredient that is called polyquaternium 39, I think that that does have the potential of being irritating also. And then this product is from Kiehl's, and it is called the Ultra Facial Cleanser, and so I just got this little sample, and so I did give it a try. And my feeling about Kiehl's is that I have tried several products from them, and I feel like all of them have not been liked by my skin very much at all. Kiehl's is actually owned by L'Oreal, and so I actually kind of feel pretty strongly that there is almost nothing that is made by any company that is owned by L'Oreal that I actually have liked. There was one little exception, which is this eyeshadow palette that was designed by Lisa Eldridge that was sold by Lancome, and so I do like that one. But in general, I feel like Kiehl's is similar to all of the other L'Oreal companies, and that my skin just doesn't like what they make at all. And then this product by Native, I purchased this a while back, and the reason was because it is unscented, and it is called Sensitive Facial Cleanser, and it is a reasonable price, so it is 3 ounces, and it's only $10. And unfortunately, now that I look at the ingredient list, I can see that I should have predicted that my skin was not going to like it, because it does have several different surfactants in the first 6 ingredients, including cocamidopropyl is the first ingredient after water, and then also sodium lauryl sarcosinate. And in general, I'm not seeing any particular reason why this should be a good product. I'm not seeing even any ingredients that I think that my skin would much like. And so, unfortunately, this one did not work out for me. And then the other day I was at Ulta, and I saw this product from Naturium, which is called the Niacinamide Cleansing Gelée 3%, when I was standing in line to check out. And so on an impulse, I decided to buy this. This was well under $10 for this size, and their full size of this is $18, I guess. And in any case, I think that this was mildly irritating to me. I don't see anything in the first 6 ingredients that really concerns me, but I also don't see anything that makes me think that it would probably be a really good product. I do see that this includes some sodium hyaluronate in it, as well as the niacinamide and the glycerin, and so for some people that might be appealing. And then Pure Culture, this is a venture that was started by Vic Casale, who is previously of MAC Cosmetics, and now he runs Mob Beauty Cosmetics. And I think that in terms of being a cosmetic formulator, he is really a wizard. I don't think he has as much experience in skincare formulation, and I think this was sort of an experiment. So the idea with this is that you would submit information about your skin, and you also would submit a little bit of information about how oily your skin is based on like pressing a little piece of paper on your skin, and then they would send you a selection of products that are supposed to be particularly well suited to your skin. And so what I purchased from them was the Pure Culture Custom Cleanser for $17. And I kind of like the idea, and as I say, I am a big fan of Vic Casale. But in this case, the cleanser that they sent to me, it did have cocamidopropylbutane in it, even though it was obvious that I had really dry skin. And so I think that was not that great of an idea. I feel like they should have either not been using the cocamidopropylbutane, or they should have not been using it for everyone. And I do think that this was a product that I just didn't feel like using, and that I gave away pretty quickly. And it looks to me like actually that Pure Culture is on hiatus at this point, and so I'm not sure what's going to be happening with them, and maybe they're going to revamp the whole thing. I'm not sure. And then Rhode is a company that is associated with Hailey Bieber, who is a celebrity and model, and so they have introduced a variety of different skincare products, and I really haven't done very well with any of them. There was one product from them, I think their barrier cream, that I thought was not too bad, although it was a little bit on the light side for a barrier cream. But again, this particular company is targeting people that are a lot younger than I am, so I certainly can understand why they would be offering a cream that was a little bit lighter. In this case, I purchased their Pineapple Refresh daily cleanser, and this was $28, and I was still hopeful that this would work for me, even though most of the other products had not worked and had irritated my skin. But I do feel like this one turned out to be irritating, and so it may just be that the reason is because it has an ingredient in it that is called lauramidopropylbutane, which is similar to the cocamidopropylbutane. And so probably I won't buy any more skincare from this company. I have really liked their blush, however, and I also have really liked their lip balms, and so I do think there's some potential, but in terms of the skincare, this has not really been a good company for me. And then the Inkey List, I tried this one product, which is called the Inkey List Fulvic Cleanser, and so I just got this small size of it to try it out, and this is another product that irritated my skin, and I'm not exactly sure why. I'm not seeing anything in here that I think necessarily I should be reacting to. I'm not seeing any surfactants high up on the ingredient list. It does have a couple of PEGs in it, and that concerns me a little bit. Oddly, it has phenoxyethanol pretty high on the ingredient list, and I don't know if that means that it has an unusually large amount of phenoxyethanol, which is a preservative, or not in it. If it did have a lot of phenoxyethanol in it, I guess it could be irritating. But in any case, you know, some of these products, both from the Ordinary and the Inkey List, it looks like on the ingredient list that they should be good, but I think that my skin is so sensitive that in a lot of cases, companies like this, they will buy less high quality versions of the ingredients that they put in here, and I think that my skin might not do well with those less quality ingredients. So my suspicion is that when I don't do well with these kinds of products, and I often do not, that is the reason why. And then that's also the case with a lot of drugstore type products as well. So for instance, the Vanicream Gentle Facial Cleanser for $5. In terms of the ingredient list, it looks like maybe it should be okay for me, but my skin has reacted really negatively to pretty much everything that I have bought from companies like Vanicream and CeraVe and the other companies that make products that are like drugstore, and they're inexpensive, but it looks like there's clean ingredient lists without fragrance. My skin often just does not like those at all. And then quite a long time ago, I tried a product from Well People, and that is called the Well People Juice Cleanse, and that's kind of a reasonably priced product. And I do feel like this one is probably targeting people that are a lot younger than I am. And this one does include cocamidopropylbutane as the first ingredient after water, and it also includes rose geranium oil, and I am allergic to that. And so at this point, I definitely wouldn't have picked this up based just on the ingredient list. But I also think that compared to an awfully lot of the skincare products that are on the market that most kids are using, that this one is probably actually better. And then now let's move on to cleansers that do have some kind of a fragrance in them and that are gel cleansers or foaming type cleansers. And so the first one that I tried fairly recently is from Glow Recipe, And this, I think, is one of their more popular products, and this is called the Avocado Ceramide Moisture Barrier Cleanser. And it has natural fragrance in it, and they don't specify what the natural fragrance is. And my experience with this is that it actually doesn't seem to have any noticeable scent at all. And so whatever they have put into this, it doesn't seem to have been a very high quantity of it. And I don't feel like it's been irritating for my skin at all. And when I look at the ingredient list for this, I'm not seeing anything in this that looks like it's of particular concern. I don't see any harsh surfactants in it. I don't see anything in it that I think would likely be irritating except for that natural fragrance. And it does have a lot of ingredients in it that I think have the potential of being good for my skin, including some ceramides, some sodium hyaluronate, avocado extract, and the soap bark extract, and also a variety of different kinds of hyaluronic acid. And so that could be why my skin seems to have been okay with it, especially because of all that hyaluronic acid in it. And then this is from a company called 3 Ships, and this is a brand that is sold on Credo, and this cleanser is called Purify Aloe Plus Amino Acid Cleanser, and I just have this little sample of it. And the fragrance that is in this includes limonene and bergamot oil and linalool, and I feel like there's fairly small amounts of that in here. And in terms of the ingredient list, I'm not seeing anything in here that I think is really problematic. It does have aspen bark extract, which for some reason, EWG is giving that an 8, and I don't feel like this product has been irritating to my skin at all. And in the positive side, it has Saccharomyces ferment, filtrate, and green tea extract, and sodium PCA. So it does have some nice ingredients in it. And my experience with this one is that it hasn't irritated my skin, but I haven't really enjoyed using it. I don't really like the texture of it, and I feel like it has left sort of a sticky film on my face when I have used it, and so that has not made me want to keep going back to it. But I at least haven't felt that it was irritating for my skin, so that was something. And then we have a whole bunch of products that I have tried, mostly early on in my discovery process, that do have some kind of fragrance in them and that have irritated my skin. And so one is the Bare Minerals Pure Plush Cleansing Foam, which is $22 last I checked. I do recall this one being very highly scented and even being objectionable to me in terms of it just having a really strong smell to it. And I also do feel like it was really irritating for my skin, unfortunately. And then Biossance is a brand that I actually usually like quite a lot, and so I'm a little disappointed that they don't have a cleanser that they are offering that I am able to use. But this particular cleanser is called the Squalane Plus Amino Aloe Gentle Cleanser, and it does have a number of different fragrances in it, so really I don't think that any of their other skincare is actually fragranced, but this one does have a lot of different ingredients in it. And one of those is rose geranium oil, and again, I think I'm just plain allergic to rose geranium oil. And in addition to that, it has the cocamidopropyl hydroxy sultane as the second ingredient after water. And so in general, even though this has some squalane in it and some glycerin in it, and even though I would really like to be able to use this one, I think it's just plain irritating to my face, unfortunately. And then Folane is a brand that is now owned by Credo. And so this is the Folane Hydrating Cleanser, and a full-size bottle of this is $24. And so in terms of the fragrance ingredients that are in this, this includes grapefruit oil and tangerine oil and lavender oil. I wouldn't probably think that the rest of the ingredients that are in here probably are problematic for me. Some of these I'm not familiar with, so I'm not sure. I wish I could use this, and I think it's probably just the essential oils that are problematic for me. And then this product is from Goldfaden MD, and it is called the Pure Start Gentle Detoxification Facial Cleanser. And it has grapefruit oil in it, and then it also has hydrolyzed wheat protein. So if you're sensitive to wheat, then that would be something to be aware of. And in terms of the main ingredients in this, I'm not really seeing anything that I think is real problematic, but I'm not sure about some of these ingredients in terms of whether or not my skin will tolerate them or not. And in general, I think that this was somewhat irritating for my skin. And I also just didn't really like the texture of this one, so I didn't really enjoy using it for that reason either. And then Grown Alchemist is a company that tends to put a whole lot of fragrance ingredients in really all of their products as far as I have seen. And sometimes I've actually been able to use their products, and I think that they are using really small amounts of all of these ingredients in it. But nonetheless, I think that if you are really sensitive to any of these essential oils, that could be a problem. So what they are putting in this is orange oil, limonene, linalool, rose geranium oil, mandarin oil, bergamot oil, citronellol, geraniol, and rose oil. And I do think that there is a really noticeable scent in this that I think is a little bit too much for me in general. And I also think that it just was really irritating for my skin, more so than most things. This does have sodium lauryl succinate in it, so that is a product that might be irritating for people. And then Honest Beauty, as I say, I usually like their skincare, but in terms of cleansers, I am not really crazy about any of their cleansers. And the one that is the most popular is called the Honest Gentle Gel Cleanser. And that is not really expensive, and you can buy it at places like Ulta or at Target. And so the ingredients that are in this that have scents include rose geranium oil, palmarosa oil, Siberian fir oil, linalool, lavender oil, and patchouli oil, and Roman chamomile flower oil. And in general, I think that this would probably not be a great product for me anyway, because it does include the cocamidopropyl hydroxysultane in it. However, I do have a friend who has skin that is fairly sensitive, but her skin is more oily than mine is, and she seems to be reactive to different kinds of things. And she's about my age, and she actually did like that cleanser when I sent her the remains of the bottle that I had purchased. And so if you are someone that likes scents and products, and if your skin is not quite so dry, then conceivably that could be worth trying. And then next we have a couple of products from a company called Indie Lee. So there is the Indie Lee Brightening Cleanser, and that one has natural fragrance and hydrolyzed wheat protein in it. And I did find that to be a little bit irritating. And then there's another one that is more of a purifying type of a cleanser. And that one has lemon peel extract, clove flower extract, jasmine extract, and some citrus in it. And that one I just found to be quite irritating as well. And then Osea is a line that some people do seem to really like, but that I've been kind of nervous about, in large part because it does include C-type ingredients on all of their products, and I feel like if there is that much of an emphasis that the potential for contamination might be higher because the percentages that they are using may be fairly high. But in this case, this is called the Osea Ocean Cleanser, and it's expensive, so this is just a kind of a sample bottle that I got, but the full size is $48, so it's not a cheap brand at all. And in terms of the fragrance ingredients that are in that cleanser, this includes orange peel oil, lime oil, limonene, and bergamot oil, Italian cypress oil, jasmine oil. And then it includes a number of different sea ingredients, including elkhorn sea moss and carrageenan and red seaweed. And then it also includes some oats, plus juniper berry oil, Mediterranean cypress leaf, nut stem, seed oil. So in general, I feel like it was not a surprise to me that this did irritate my skin. I'm glad I didn't actually go out and buy it, and that I just did get it for free. And then Shani Darden is a new skincare brand that is sold at Sephora. And in terms of this particular product, the only scent ingredient that is in it is phenethyl alcohol, which is that chemical that has kind of a rose scent to it that is used in the perfume industry. And it is really high on the ingredient list. That phenethyl alcohol is actually in the first 6 ingredients. So that does make me think that there's a reason why it does have a fairly strong a rose note to it, and that could be one of the reasons that my skin was not crazy about this product. And then True Botanicals was another line of products that I really, really wanted to like. I think that they are using pretty high quality ingredients in terms of their formulas, but I also think that in a lot of cases just they're using way too much fragrance for me. And so in the True Botanicals Renew Cleanser, that one is $48, which I think is really, really expensive. And in terms of their scent ingredients, it includes some bark extract, grapefruit peel, limonene, linalool, jasmine oil, and also lavender oil, vetiver root oil, and phenyl alcohol. But other than the fragrance ingredients, I feel like the rest of these ingredients should be okay for me. So that is really too bad. And then I think that probably the same thing would be the case with this Ursa Major Fantastic Face Wash. So this is a little bit less expensive than the True Botanical stuff, so that makes it appealing. And in terms of the ingredient list, I'm not seeing anything that I would imagine would be really problematic, except for all of these different fragrance ingredients. And so in general, if you want something that is really fragranced and kind of a subtle way in terms of it smelling like a lot of different things at once, then this could be something to try. And then Youth to the People is a brand that also is labeled at Clean at Sephora. And I have not done well with any of the products from this company that I have tried. And in terms of the Youth to the People Superfood Cleanser, which is $36, this one does include fragrance. And I think that it is supposed to be a natural fragrance, but it's just listed as fragrance. And then it also has limonene and linalool, and some jasmine extract and hexylcinnamol. And then also as the first ingredient after water, it does include cocamidopropyl hydroxy sultane, so I think that that could be part of the reason that it was problematic. But some of these other ingredients that are in the first 6 ingredients look problematic too. And then another product that I tried a while back and that I didn't think was too bad was the cleansing stick from Jones Road. And I kind of liked the idea of that product because it was in solid form. And so I thought if I were going on an airplane trip that that would be a good product to bring with me, or that I could just kind of leave it in my car. And if I needed to use it even as a hand wash, that it might be a good thing. And at the time, it included some different natural fragrances in it, but I didn't think that it was too bad at all. But it looks to me like they have changed the formula for that one, and now it just lists fragrance as one of the ingredients in it, in addition to some of the other natural fragrances that it used to have. And so I haven't gotten in touch with Jones Road to ask them this, but my suspicion here is that it probably includes some of the fragrance that is in that shower perfume that they make, and that one definitely does include some synthetic fragrance in it. And it's supposed to be clean fragrance, clean synthetic fragrance, but I don't really believe in this concept of safe synthetic fragrance or clean synthetic fragrance being okay, because my skin always reacts to that, and I always find the scent to be really objectionable also. And so next we have some additional cleansers. These are mostly gel cleansers, and these actually have some alpha hydroxy acids in them. And so these serve as mild facial exfoliators to remove some of the dead skin cell and some of the other gunk that is on the skin. And so I think that for my skin, using a product like this occasionally can be a nice thing. I tend not to use a lot of really heavy-duty exfoliators on my skin because my skin is really delicate. But on occasion, I do think that it can be a nice thing to use a cleanser that just has a little bit of an exfoliator like this in it. And so one of the products that I do like is from Victoria Beckham, and this one is called the Daily Lactic Acid Gel Cleanser, and this is designed to be used as a second step in conjunction with their oil cleanser, or you can use it with some other oil cleanser first, probably, they're thinking. And I think that of those two products, that this one is kind of nice and might be worth using. It does have just a mild AHA in it, just lactic acid, and then it also has some fermented ingredients in it that my skin does tend to seem to like, and none of the other ingredients in this seem to be very harsh on my skin, and I seem to do a pretty good job when I use this once in a while. Now I really only use it once or twice a week, and so there's still an awfully lot left in this bottle. But I think that this is an expensive cleanser, but at least I feel like it's been of some value when I have used it. And then another product that I have used from time to time, and that I did end up using a whole bottle of this on my face over the period of maybe a year or so, is the Alpine Beauty Creamy Bubbly Cleanser. And so I think that the ingredients in this one look pretty good. It does have a mild surfactant in it, but I don't think it's been really drying for my face. And I think that the amounts of the exfoliators in here, it has both glycolic acid and lactic acid. I think that the amounts of those ingredients must be pretty low because I don't feel like it was irritating to my skin. Now, it does have some essential oils in it, so it also has orange oil and lavender oil and also some benzyl alcohol, which has a bit of a scent to it and which can be a little bit irritating. And so I wouldn't say that that product was the best thing for my skin, and I did use it up really gradually over a long period of time, and I don't think that I would buy it again. And there is a fermented ingredient in this, lactobacillus pomegranate fruit fermented extract, and so that might be part of why my skin was able to tolerate it, because I do tend to do well with fermented ingredients. And then Beekman 1802, I actually tend not to do all that well with most of their products. Even with things like their hand creams, I do find them irritating. I'm not sure exactly why. But in my records, I do have note that this one seemed to be okay for me. So this is called the Beekman 1802 Milk Wash Cleanser. And so in general, I do think that there is a kind of a wide variety of different kinds of AHAs and BHA in this. And considering that, I'm a little surprised that my skin did not react to it more negatively, but maybe it only has small amounts of those different things in it. And it does have some fermented ingredients in it. And then this is a product from Cocokind, so it's fairly reasonably priced. This is a brand that I would mostly buy probably from Target. And so this one is called the Cocokind AHA Jelly Cleanser, and last I checked it was $19. And in terms of the AHAs that are in this, it includes lactic acid, and then it also includes a fermented ingredient. But in general, I don't think it's been really irritating for my skin, but I also am not sure that I really like sort of what it leaves behind on my skin. I feel like my skin feels like a little bit kind of sticky, like there's a residue, and so I'm not really crazy about that. And then in terms of some other products that have AHAs in them, but that I wasn't able to tolerate because they did irritate my skin. The first one is from a company that is called Bioma, and this is called the Milky Moisture Cleanser. And so this one has, as the AHA, it has lactic acid in it, and it also has a couple of other ingredients in it that I'm not really certain about, and oatmeal extract. And I'm not sure exactly why this was so irritating for my skin, but this is definitely not a product that I would want to use. And then another cleanser that I tried just a sample version of is the Dam Dam Nomads Cleanser. And so this one has a sunflower seed oil in the first several ingredients, and it also includes several fragrance ingredients, including orange peel oil, tea tree leaf oil, licorice root extract, and ylang ylang oil. And for me, I feel like this was really not that great for my skin. It did make it a little bit irritating, but maybe people that can tolerate essential oils better might be able to get some use out of that one. And so now let's talk about a few cleansers that have physical exfoliants in them. So they have really small particles of little pieces of grit in them that can help to exfoliate the face. And so most of the time, I don't feel like most of these products have been very good for my face, but there have been a couple of them that I do think have been pretty good for my face and that I have been able to use. And sometimes I do use these products on my hands as well, especially during the winter when I've been using a lot of hand creams that have, for instance, a lot of waxes in them. So one of the products that I have liked the most is from the Outset, and this is called the Exfoliating Caffeine Micro Polish. And I do feel like this has been a particularly nice scrub for me because this does include a lot of very, very small particles in it. And they claim that the particles are spherical shaped, and they're from perlite. And so therefore they're not as rough as some of the particles in other kinds of cleansers, and so they're less likely to cause little micro tears. And I think that when I have used this on my face that this has been fine, and that really if I'm going to use a product on my face now, this is the one that I generally have been using. And then this product from Aveda, this is called Botanical Kinetics Radiant Skin Refiner, and this one has fairly small particles also, and I feel like they're not too rough on my skin. And I did used to use this occasionally on my face, but after I started using the one from the outset, I've actually been using this on my hands. And I think that this has actually been a fairly nice hand scrub as well. And in terms of the ingredient list, even though I'm usually not very enthusiastic about any of the skincare products from Aveda, in this case I think the ingredient list looks pretty good, and I haven't had any problems with it irritating my skin at all. I think it's been perfectly fine. And then Drunk Elephant offers a bar soap that is similar to the other bar soap, the Peaky one, except this one is called the Juju Exfoliating Bar. And so I feel like the ingredients in this are fairly similar to the ones in their regular cleansing bar, which is the Peaky bar, except that this one includes bamboo leaf and stem extract, and so it has and some clay in it, and so it's supposed to be mildly exfoliating for the skin. And I have used this on my face a few times, and I haven't had any problems with it at all, so I think I could go ahead and use this. I'm not sure how much benefit it is giving to my skin, but I definitely don't think it's one that I've had a problem with. And then this is a product from Tata Harper, and as I said, Tata Harper tends to make really expensive products, and this is in the Super Kind line, and so this is supposed to be designed for sensitive skin. And actually for this product, I'm not seeing a lot on the ingredient list that I think could be problematic, and it does have rice powder in it, and I think that's probably the ingredient in this that is supposed to be refining or exfoliating. And then there's also a little bit of lactic acid in it, which is a chemical exfoliant. And I have tried this a few times from this little container, and I think it's been fine for my face. I don't think my face is objected to this at all. And then Tatcha has a whole line of rice polish products, and these are just rice that is ground up, and so that it is very, very mildly exfoliating, and it gets a little bit foamy. And so only on their website was I able to find one that is called the Rice Polish Calming, which is supposed to not have the kinds of fragrances in it that the other products that are in this line have. And this one also has colloidal oatmeal in it, which I don't always feel great about. But in this case, I feel like that product has been okay for me. And that one does have a fermented ingredient in it. And so I got a really small container of that in a little kit from Tatcha, and I thought that was very nice, so conceivably I might think about buying that one again. But it is $68 for a full size, so that's not a cheap product at all. And then, as I've said before, I think that some of the Burt's Bees products are sort of tolerable in terms of their cleansers, and I think that that's probably also the case for many people with the Burt's Bees Sensitive Gentle Face Scrub, which is only $10. And I think the ingredient list for this one looks okay, and it does have a fermented ingredient in it. And I think that the scrub particles were not too large and they weren't too irritating. Again, I'm not really sure that I like exactly the residue that it left on my skin, and so I didn't use that much of it. But I think that compared to other kinds of products that you buy at the drugstore and that cost less than $10, I think that this one is probably pretty good in comparison. And then in terms of exfoliators that did cause me irritation, the first one was from Alpine Beauty, and this one is called the Hydrating Cream Cleanser. And so this one comes in a jar, and it does have a lot of little particles in it that do gently exfoliate the skin. And I felt like my skin was able to sort of tolerate that, but after I tried to actually use up the whole jar, my skin did start to get a little bit annoyed about that concept. In terms of the fragrance ingredients in it, it has menthol in it, and I don't think that's very good for my skin, and also eucalyptus, and it has salicylic acid in it, and sodium lauryl sarcosinate. And so I think all of those are just a little bit irritating for my skin. And then Goop has an exfoliator that has an awful lot of really, really tiny little particles of exfoliant in it. And this is called the Goop Glow Microderm Exfoliator. And I thought that the size of the particles in this were pretty nice. It has garnet powder in it and quartz. I don't know if those were among the particular ingredients that are supposed to be causing the exfoliation. But this one has a whole bunch of different fragrance ingredients in it. And then it also has glycolic acid in it, and I think probably the amount of it that was in that product was low enough that that was not the issue, and that for me it was probably all those fragrances that were just a little too much for my skin. And Rose Incorporated, I really do like still their skin tint foundation, but in terms of their other skincare products, I haven't had any good experiences with those. And in the case of their Skin Clarity Exfoliating Cleanser, that does have a bunch of different essential oils and processed fragrances in it, and my skin did not do well with that at all. And then in their regular line, Tata Harper has a cleanser that is called Regenerating Cleanser, which also has some exfoliant in it, including apricot seed powder. And for this one does have a variety of different scents in it, and I think more harsh scents in it because it's not really designed to be for sensitive skin, and definitely my skin did not like this one. And then Tatcha makes a product that is called the Rice Wash Soft Cream Cleanser, and I think that this is supposed to be similar to their Rice Polish Cleanser, except that it's in a cream form. And I think that this was actually nice in terms of the consistency, and that I might actually like it. But this one, again, does have some fragrance in it. So it has Tatcha's natural fragrance in it, and I don't think that my skin ever does well with that. And then a long time ago, I tried a product from Well People, which was called Plant Powder Foliant. And that one has a lot of activated charcoal in it, and I feel like the particles in that were pretty rough, and so it was being kind of rough on my skin. And in addition, it has a number of different kind of surfactants in it, and it has lactic acid in it, and willow bark extract, and ginger root oil. And so I think that it just was really not particularly appropriate for my skin. And then finally, let's talk about hydroxy acid peels. And so these are chemical exfoliants that are more like serums, and so they are designed to provide a little bit more of an intense exfoliating experience for the skin. And so you can either put them directly on the skin, or what I would more tend to do is to mix them in with sort of like a moisturizer or something like that, so they're not quite as strong. And one that I have really liked is from Biossance, and this one is called the Squalane plus Lactic Acid Resurfacing Night Serum, or sometimes this is just called the Squalane plus Lactic Acid Serum. And I think that this is a really mild product in terms of it not including any problematic ingredients in it as far as I'm concerned, other than just the lactic acid that is in here. And I don't think that my skin has been especially irritated by it when I have used it. It's just that it does have these acids in it. And so if I'm going to turn to a product that does have AHAs in it, then I think this is a nice one. And then a product that I have used that I think is a bit stronger, but that I also think does have an ingredient list that my skin seems to be able to tolerate, is this one from Drunk Elephant, and this is called TLC Framboos Glycolic Night Serum, and this one does include glycolic acid and lactic acid, and so on occasion I will mix that into something. Or if I feel like I have, like, for instance, bumps along my jawline here, sometimes I will put this directly on those bumps, and I do think that that does a good job taking care of that. Or on occasion, even if I've had like a little bit of like a pimple or something, sometimes I put this on that, and it seems to take care of that pretty quickly. And then Alpine Beauty has a couple of polishing peels. So one of them is the Alpine Beauty 8 Acid Polishing Peel for $56, and I've gotten a couple of small samples of those, and I have found that if I mix that with the moisturizer and then I put it on my face and I leave it on for a while, like maybe 15 minutes or so, and then I rinse it off, I do think that that gives a nice mild cleanse to my very sensitive skin, and I don't think that the ingredients in it have been irritating for me. But there is also supposed to be another version that is supposed to be a little bit milder, but I'm not sure it really would make that much difference in terms of looking at the ingredients, so I haven't actually gone out and bought that one yet. And then this product is from Mad Hippie, and this is called AHA Exfoliating Peel, and I think that this one has been pretty good for me also. This one supposedly has peptides as well as glycolic and lactic acid in it, and I think that as something to use on my face that's just very, very mildly exfoliating in terms of a chemical exfoliator, I think this one has not been too bad. And this one is a liquid, but I still feel like I can mix it with a moisturizer and that it will work nicely if I do that, as well as just put it directly on my skin. And the Outset has a product that is called the Purifying Blue Clay Mask. And I don't think this is really that appropriate for my skin, but I will say that there have been a couple of times that I have tried it out, and that in one case I did fall asleep with it on, and I slept for a few hours, and I think that my face was not really irritated by this product at all. It was kind of dried out as a result of using it, but I didn't feel like it had any lasting effects after I put some moisturizer on. So I think if you're looking for a clay mask that might have a little bit of exfoliating to it, and you do have skin that's more inclined to being a little bit oilier than mine or more inclined to breakouts, then that might be a product to consider, and I don't think that I had a bad experience with that at all. But there are a couple of products that fall into this category that I do think I had bad experiences with. One is the Aveda Botanical Kinetics Instant Luminizer, and that one does have some fragrance type ingredients in it that I don't think were good for my skin. And then there is the Vintner's Daughters Treatment Essence. And I tried for a short period of time both the Vintner's Daughter oil and also the Vintner's Daughter Treatment Essence, and this one is more like an exfoliator, and it had a lot of different exfoliating ingredients in it, as well as a lot of other botanicals in it, and I feel like this one was definitely irritating to my skin. And I think that the combination of the Vintner's Daughter oil, which has a lot of lemon essential oil in it, and then this particular treatment essence, that really wrecked my skin pretty much worse than almost anything that I have tried. And so I definitely feel like I want to stay far away from the Vintner's Daughter line ever since I gave that a try that time. So thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video, and I would really like to hear about your experiences with different cleansers. So certainly if there are any that you really like, then please share that information, or if you've had particularly problematic experiences with any that you thought would work out for me, then please share that information as well. And in addition, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then please go ahead and do that. And if you like this video, then please do hit like, because supposedly that helps the algorithm. And Coco and I do love you very much, and so I hope you're having a good winter. Goodbye.
La ba da la 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 boom